So welcome to Light It Up Wednesday, where we bring the joy and we find the lesson so we can be the lights on the ground where they are so needed. Today, my special guest is life journey coach, psychic, and archetype guide, Kathryn Leeman, PhD. Kathryn has been in the metaphysical community for over 40 years, practicing as a psychic and life coach. She's trained with medicine people, shaman, and renowned teachers and healers worldwide. She now utilizes her gifts, talents, and all of this training, including her education in transpersonal psychology, to help others on their own life journey. Kathryn has also studied with medical intuitive and best-selling author of Sacred Contracts, Caroline Myss, who offers a very in-depth program into archetypes and sacred contracts. So Kathryn is now helping others identify their own archetypal sacred contracts so they can experience empowerment through understanding their own mission and purpose. Today, we'll be discussing the power of archetypes, in particular, the 4 survival archetypes and what's going on in the planet right now. So help me welcome Kathryn. Hi. So good to have you here today.
Good. How are you?
I am so good and just so excited to talk about the archetypes with you because, I mean, it does feel like we are really going through stuff collectively right now.
It sure does. It sure does.
So you've mentioned that we have 4 survival archetypes. Now, do we all have the same 4 survival archetypes?
Yes, we do. We can have, there are 6 child archetypes, so we can have a different child archetype. But the way I look at it is no childhood was perfect. And whether it was at school, at home, wherever it happened to be, we all were teased or taunted or bullied or, hurt. Our feelings got hurt or we got hurt, whatever. So we all have the wounded child archetype at some level. Mm-hmm. And then we all have the saboteur, that voice that talks us out of listening to our intuition. When we get those gut feelings, we talk ourselves out of it. And then we say, I knew I should have done that, but I didn't. So we have the saboteur, which is, I don't know if I can bring, which is the saboteur archetype. And then we have the prostitute archetype. Everybody has the prostitute archetype. The prostitute is the one that says, okay, I'll do this, but what's it going to cost me? Mm-hmm. What's it going to cost me emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually? What's it going to cost me if I do this? And so I have found, particularly women, sacrifice and martyr themselves a lot because that's how they were trained to do it and forget to do self-care. We prostitute ourselves to the point where we don't do self-care. And then we have the victim archetype going in and out. I'm not sure about this whole, there we go. The victim archetype. And the victim is we are all, we've all been victims. We're all members of the Scar Clan, we're there. And those 4 archetypes of the wounded child, the victim, the saboteur, and the prostitute are running amok in our country. You look at the victim archetype, that is so strong right now. The victimization, all of that's coming up. How things are being sabotaged, how we're being sabotaged, et cetera, how we're sabotaging ourselves, how much this is costing us. You look at the world, our economy and how much it's cost us to go through this recent experience. So the prostitute is alive and well. And all the wounds that are coming up for people, having to stay at home and face things and so on and so forth. So these 4 survival archetypes are in the shadow. And what I like to do is help people turn them into the light. Mm-hmm. So the prostitute becomes the lover and the one of self-care. The saboteur becomes the magician. Victim becomes the spiritual warrior, and the wounded child becomes the divine child. And when we can flip those into the light, we get into the flow, and life really does start to become magical.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Can you repeat that one more time? What they each turn into?
The victim becomes the spiritual warrior. Okay. The prostitute becomes the lover of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
The saboteur becomes the magician. And the wounded child becomes the divine child. And all of these four archetypes puts us at choice. They're whether we're being overpowered or empowered. When we're being overpowered, they're all activated. When we're being empowered, they're all activated. These four work in cahoots with each other, and you can't have one without having the other three. They're all there. Some are stronger than the other. And
wow.
You know what just occurred to me, Deanna, is a lot of people don't understand what archetypes are. Can I share for a second?
Yes. Oh, please. Yes.
Archetypes are bodies of consciousness. They're energies we've agreed upon that exist, that channel through us. And we chose a core of 12 before incarnating into this lifetime to help us learn our lessons and to grow into our mission and our purpose. And so they first operate in the shadow to teach us our lessons. But if we don't become aware of them, they never move into the light to bring us our gifts, our talents, all of that kind of stuff. So if I said to you, that little boy down the street was acting like a bully, everybody would know what that would mean because the bully is an archetype. Or that little girl, she sure thinks she's a real princess. Everyone knows what a princess means. So that's an archetype. So these kinds of descriptions of characters that are running through us that control the mind, so to speak, until we learn how to hear it. It's like the devil on one side and the little angel on the other, you know, that old cartoon.
Yes.
The tour runs the show. He's the guardian of choice, and he's got the most power out of all of them.
The saboteur, you said? Okay.
And because we're constantly sabotaging ourselves with the choices that we make. So we have to look at what choice is going to empower us or what choice is going to disempower us. And that leads to the prostitute. What's it going to cost me if I make this choice, if I make this choice?
Yeah.
And one lead me into being a victim, or does one lead me into being a spiritual warrior? It's okay if it's going to cost me something as long as I know about it and I'm okay with the cost and I'm going into that with full knowledge and understanding of what I'm doing.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it works.
Yeah. Now, so all of these in their shadow, all four of the survival archetypes have been activated in their shadow, like since the beginning of this year, basically, right?
Oh, yes. They've been there all along, but they've been kind of like under, underwater. And now it's like, poof, here they are.
Yeah.
Nothing can be anymore during these times, right? Nothing can be hidden.
Right.
So they are in their full glory.
Yes. I actually witnessed somebody get really mad at a guy who was jogging, not wearing a mask, because he was jogging without wearing a mask. And then she was there wearing a mask, but he was out to ruin her life. He should be more careful. He doesn't care about anybody. He just wants to spread COVID-19. Like, and she really was just like, I was like, whoa, babe. He was jogging, and the CDC actually does say if you're exercising, don't wear a mask.
Exactly.
But yeah, we have it in us to move away from that person. We have it in us to distance ourselves if it's not occurring to someone else.
Right, exactly. So that's a real victim.
Yeah.
And what I like to do is I take the astrological wheel that Caroline has designed in her book called Sacred Contracts. And I help people to find out what house, I'm not an astrologer, but what house they fall into, which tells us where the prostitute, the saboteur, the victim, and the wounded child are most active, where they're the flare. what, and where the light needs to enter. And then if they want to, we get to find out what the other 8 are, so they understand our whole sacred contract for this lifetime and how to use it. So, but knowing where those 4 fall, what house they fall into, like some may fall into the house of home or identity, or, in the unconscious, or into the career aspect, where do they fall? And when people see that, they go, wow, my whole life just made a whole lot of sense. Now I see what's been going on. I hear that consistently. I just had 2 archetype workshops, and they were sold out, and people were looking at those and they just said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So yeah. I'm going to be doing them again, probably around November, but it's people can come to me individually and get it done as well. So yeah, but that is so empowering to understand.
It is. I know I've been really diving into the victim archetype recently, and I didn't know that it's in the light. It's called the spiritual warrior. And so I was just seeing it as the shadow victim or the light victim. And I found myself feeling very victimized. And so I thought, oh, let's really do it. Let's dive in, honey, because this world is crushing you. Nobody feels you're overwhelmed like you do, sweetheart. Why, you are the queen of overwhelm. And then I could really see, like, whoa, this is how I dive into that victim, man. It's like, whoa, over here, open up and take me in. Like, it's so welcoming.
Because I do the same thing. The victim archetype used to be the biggest archetype for me, right? And I would just dive head first into that thing. And when I was in Hollywood doing acting, they always had me, my coaches and stuff in film, had me acting the victim. So I got to act it out, get it out of my system. I got to act it out. And so, yeah. So on the, in doing that, acting it out and playing it, that was so empowering to actually act out the victim and see it, how it operates. Boy, I was good at
it. Yeah. I really love your comparison. Well, like, okay, so telling us how the saboteur is our archetype when we're in the shadow, but if we move it to the light, we become the magician. And I like how you were saying the saboteur sits on this shoulder. We've got our angel over here. And I love using that term in unity, like, because we'll talk about the adversary or the little me. That's what we call it in unity, the little me. But like, our saboteur just sits right there. But now I love knowing its counterpart is the magician.
Yeah. And that's where, if we listen to our intuition and follow those gut feelings, that's what creates the magic. That's what creates putting us into the flow. That leads us right into this purpose and mission. A lot of people don't understand there's a difference between purpose and mission. And the purpose is what I came here to do for myself. We all came here to evolve, period. No matter if you're a murderer or what it may be, we came here to evolve. That's the main purpose. But the mission is, what is it that we have to offer other people? How do we help? What is our calling? And that's where finding out the sacred contract really puts that into perspective. Like, I had a woman that came in that was a teacher. That's an archetype. A teacher is an archetype. And so she says, I don't know if I'm doing my mission and all that. And we did her wheel, and it fell right into the house of the teacher. So as I said, yeah. And she was so relieved and so happy that all these years she had been doing her mission, but didn't know it, So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, if somebody, like you're saying, kind of overall, collectively together, we're in the shadow of the survivor archetypes.
Huge.
Is there a way, like, I just feel like I accidentally figured out I was in the shadow because I was over dramatizing it. But is there a way that we can, like, decide to stop and think about how we might be in the shadow so we can start making a transition?
There is, it's called putting on the pause button. When something doesn't feel good,
Mm-hmm.
and someone's making a choice, like if I'm making a choice to go down this road and I keep getting roadblock after roadblock, I'm not getting any feedback. That's the path of the saboteur at that time. It's not right timing. It's not right placement. Maybe down the road, it might be right timing, but not right now. But if it feels lighter, I'm not going to say fully light, but if it feels, when you are faced with a couple of choices, which one feels a little bit lighter than the rest, and you start moving down that road, then the saboteur relaxes and it becomes the magician. Now, what's really important, the magician and the divine child only give you one step at a time. Because, you know, the little me wants to know, okay, well, if I take this step, and this step, what steps do I need to take? How do I need to get there, you know? And I'm saying, you only can take one step. Then you'll get the next one. You have to have enough faith and trust to take that first fear step into the unknown with no thought of return, right?
Yep.
And feel the next step will be revealed and will be revealed, you know? So that's actually one of the teachings in the Bible about the lamp on the feet when they were going through the desert.
Mm-hmm.
That's a metaphorical teaching about moving one step at a time, having faith that the light will guide you.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love the term push the pause button. I've heard people use it, but in the way they were using it, I thought they meant, let's just explain it a little more. But I didn't get like how you're saying it. Now I get it. It's like, so if we seem to be going down a path that just has roadblock after roadblock, we push the pause button by just deciding to wait a moment and receive intuition.
Well, let me tell you how to do that.
Okay.
What you do is you take a moment, you drop your tongue off the roof of your mouth, because if it's up on the roof of your mouth, the head will be engaged. The little me's will be engaged.
Okay.
The tongue follows the navel. So if the navel is tight, the stomach is tight, the tongue's going to be up on the roof of the mouth. Okay? So when you drop your tongue and drop the navel down and you relax your shoulders and your jaw, your mind actually becomes completely silent for 3 seconds. There's no thought.
That is amazing.
Right? And then you 3 deep breaths. You know, just 3 deep breaths. And every time you breathe in, the tongue goes up on the roof. When you breathe out, the tongue goes down on the floor. And you do this breath for at least 3 times, particularly if someone has the time to do it for 2 minutes. And they breathe in on the mantra so, hum, which is an ancient Sanskrit word for peace of mind.
Ooh.
So SOHUM. And you do that while you relax the belly and stuff, and your intuition kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very peaceful. And if it doesn't kick in right at that moment, trust me, with usually sometime not too far down the road, a few minutes, an hour, whatever, it will kick in.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get a sign.
Okay.
It may not be right in that second, but what's happened is you've created the space for it to drop in.
Okay. That, I love that. And you know, I just saw something yesterday, Kathryn, where there was, and this was a physical fitness guy, but he's talking about how the navel is like a center of tension and to like rub our belly buttons. But what you're just saying, it's like, I'm just thinking like when you're saying the tongue is connected to that center. So that is so interesting. Now, this is making me think then that our saboteur jumps in because there's so much tension and distrust. Is that what's happening?
Of course. it is the archetype that causes the tension and the distrust.
Oh,
That's
okay.
it. So when you're into that, you know the saboteur is alive and well.
Okay. It's running the show.
But the magician comes in when you drop the tongue and you do your breathing. You create this.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, then, so then how do we move from the, you said, is it the wounded child
Into the divine
into
child.
the divine? Yeah.
Child. And there are 6 archetypes. So there's the magical, there's the nature child, there's the orphan child. Right now, the orphan child and the wounded child are very, very prevalent in our country. People are feeling orphaned, they're feeling, all kinds of things. Especially in this isolation that we're in due to CV-19. So how it becomes that is it becomes the sovereign one. So it's like, okay, if you could think of, that saying, become again as the divine child and you enter the kingdom of heaven. It's looking through the child eyes. If I was a brand new child, and the inner child does that, if I'm a brand new little child, they don't look through the eyes of the saboteur. They don't look through the prostitute. They just look through, everything's magical. They look through it. I've got little grandchildren running around that just, everything's magic and everything's a new discovery. And so we look and say, where's the magic? Where's the moment here? And ask the inner child, show us where the God nature is. Show us where the divine nature, the source consciousness rests, the gift. And that creates another opening.
Okay. Now, for people experiencing the shadow of the wounded child or the orphan child, how might that show up in an adult?
Oh, good question. It shows up, the wounded child shows up by feeling victimized and projecting, you're doing this to me. When they use the word, you're doing this to me, it's your fault, blah, blah, that's the wounded child. The orphan child is not only, it contains the wound, but it's far stronger. Not only are you doing this to me, but I don't fit in, I don't belong anywhere. I've never felt like I fit in. That whole thinking, I'm isolated, I don't know where my tribe is, I've always felt alone. That's the orphan.
Okay.
So an orphan contains the wound. The orphan child is in my sacred contract and my original contract. And that was the story of my life. I, as a little psychic girl, didn't fit in anywhere. They thought I was possessed by the devil. I didn't. And so I suffered 20 years of depression because I felt there was something terribly wrong with me. I never fit in anywhere. So those are the things that's just some of the ways that can show up.
Okay. To look at the world as the divine child, that feels like just seeing it with fresh eyes. And like what I might say to my Unity congregation would be, see God is everywhere present, that source is all things, even in the things that look scary. Source is right inside of that. And
yes, another way of saying it, where's the gift in this? Can you see where can you gift? And then you've accessed it. So yes, you're absolutely right. That's accessing the divine child, the sovereign child.
Yeah. Now I think a lot of us would probably have trouble being willing to see that.
Oh yeah.
In areas of our life right now where we really want to blame somebody, and we want to just put off everything on them. And so how would you recommend we soften ourselves to get to a point where we can be willing to do that?
Well, we have to ask ourselves whether or not we really want to be happy. Because what I'm seeing a huge, huge lack of is accountability and responsibility. Nobody wants to be accountable, whether it's a corporation, an individual, wherever. They want to blame and judge everything and everyone else. Look at what we do to our government and what we do to everyone, everywhere. What are the choices I made that led me to that? Where's my responsibility here? And by activating the light and the archetypes, we make a different choice. And when we make that choice, it affects the collective we start to see more light coming in. In fact, I just heard yesterday how much more light now is on the planet than ever before. And yet, if we choose to stay over here in the shadows, we can't see it. But if we move here into the light, we will always oscillate back and forth. Always. Even Jesus oscillated back and forth. The temptation of the desert, it's like, what have I done to deserve this? And then the victim archetype. And then, oh yeah, I got it. Okay. All right. Forget about me. Okay. He was a great leader, teacher of those 4 archetypes, being from the shadow into the light. Amazing. Including Mary Magdalene, who was called the prostitute, but she never was a prostitute, right? Right. So those 4 archetypes are so in the spiritual teachings. It's amazing. And how to shift them to the light, which is what he and she did.
Yeah. Wow. This has been a very powerful conversation. I've really enjoyed getting to hear this. And then to have you say that, like, right now we have more light is hitting this planet. And like, you're meaning metaphysically?
I am.
Okay.
Yes. And also not just metaphysically, but physically as well. Okay. There's more sunlight. There's more, even though they think it's further away. There's more stuff being revealed. And every day I make the decision. Do I want to stay in the shadow side of the archetypes and add to the distress and the despair of the collective? Or do I want to move into the light and add to the healing and the awakening and the ascension? So that's the choice I wake up every morning with and say, it's my choice. What do I do? When I hear those little voices going, and I feel like I'm being a puppet, I'll go, whoa. I hear you, because it's important to acknowledge them so they don't keep getting stronger in the background. To acknowledge that they're there and say, I hear you, but I'm going to choose something different today. I choose to go over here. But thank you for showing up. You're keeping me awake. You're keeping me aware that I have a choice. So you make them your friend rather than your enemy, because they really are trying to be the cattle prod to wake us up that we need to make a choice to be in the light.
Oh my gosh, Kathryn, that is so powerful. Because if we didn't have a choice, I mean, there would be nothing happening.
Right.
And that our archetypes are with us, the shadow and the light, giving us an opportunity. And I love how you say that. Thank you for showing up, reminding me I get to make a choice here. That is so powerful. Because we live on a beautiful planet. This country, right this moment, this is a beautiful and amazing country to live in. There's some crazy things going on, but it's an opportunity for us to grow and expand the amount of light that we are carrying right now while we're in a body, more than we've ever carried before. Yeah, that's powerful. That is so powerful. Well, we are just about down to our 1:30, but I just want to thank you. Oh, thank you so much for being here today.
For having me. Really honored. Thank you.
Oh, it's so much fun. We're definitely doing this again. Now, everyone, if you liked what Kathryn had to say today, you can visit her website. My son has posted it in both the chat and on our Facebook page. Kathryn, you want to say your website?
Yes, it's evolutionarysoulpsychic.com.
Okay.
I'm going to be putting some new postings on there soon.
Yes. Kathryn does a lot of work with the Holistic Registry, giving classes and workshops. So you can also visit holisticregistry.com. And yeah, you've got, I just saw somebody on our Facebook page just typed, Linda Ritchie says, yes, big exclamation point. So yes. So hi, Linda. Hi, Ron. Thank you guys for watching.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So, and Ellen, thank you, Ellen, for being here today. So, all right, well, we're going to just say goodbye then to everybody on Facebook. So bye, everybody on Facebook.